Hi everyone, and welcome to The Movement Image. Josh and Benny Safdie have created a name for themselves, making gritty dramas that suspensefully grip audiences with their unique style. The question is, how do they accomplish this? Today we're going to take a look at how this is done in their 2017 movie, Good Time. This is part one of a two-part series on the Safdie brothers, so be sure to click the link in the description for my video on Uncut Gems. Good Time does two things. It stresses us out, and it disorients us. Starting with a bank robbery, the film follows Robert Pattinson's character Connie as he works to free his brother Nick from police captivity while avoiding capture himself. Carried by the taut, psychological fear of Connie finally running out of luck, the plot pinballs from crisis to crisis, forcing Connie to continually rise above seemingly insurmountable odds. The film's plot keeps us on edge about what could happen next, and the cinematography builds on this, maintaining stress and disorientation throughout. The stress begins with the most common shot in the film, close-ups. The Safdie brothers don't want us assuming characters are under stress, they want us to see it. By focusing us on characters' faces, we see their emotions and become invested in the problems they're facing. Take this sequence from the middle of the film. Connie, Ray, and Crystal drive up to the hospital and see a ton of cops, which alters their plans to sneak in and break Nick free. As they're driving past, the film cuts to a close-up of each of the characters, cueing us to think about how the characters are reacting to this new development. How discouraged are they by the police presence? How are they going to work through it? These close-ups get us in their head and make their problems our problems. Close-ups are also used to reflect what's most important to characters. For example, take the scene of Connie's hospital escape. Notice how we get a close-up on Connie pressing the elevator button at the end? That close-up tells us that that button needs to get pressed, and it needs to get pressed now. These types of close-ups telegraph the intensity of characters' focus, conveying the psychological difference between a person casually leaving the office and someone desperately trying to escape the law. It's important to point out these small details, because outside of building our emotional connection with its characters, Good Time doesn't want us focused on details like these. Instead, the camera in Good Time is almost always trying to disorient us, increasing the tension and making us nervous about what could be hiding around every corner. Central to this disorientation is the fact that we're rarely given a firm impression of where characters are in space. Ordinarily, a film will lay out a space with establishing shots that orient us with the character's surroundings. Good Time often denies us this information outright, or blocks out an area of the frame to keep us uncertain about things. Because the plot is reliant on Connie's constant fear of getting caught, this uncertainty adds to the tension, leaving us on edge about what could happen next. So, in a scene like this, where Connie and Ray are searching through a haunted house to find loot from an earlier heist, we see just how disorienting this can be. By keeping these shots tight and editing to jump around the space, the Safdie brothers use the confusing and frightening environment to increase our fear for the characters as they wade into the unknown. We don't know if they're near an entrance or exit, if there are other ways out, or if other people are in there with them. This draws us into the scene, making us wonder not only if they'll find their loot, but if they can even navigate their way out of there. Lighting and color are also used in Good Time to disorient us. Colored lighting adds an obvious intensity to the haunted house scene, but there are also subtler examples. Good Time's cinematographer, Sean Price Williams, is known for his vibrant, hallucinatory style, and that style makes its presence felt in this film. When Connie is holed up at Crystal's grandma's house, there's a dizzying array of lighting sources present. As Connie moves from room to room, we're blasted with different light sources that clearly don't fit together. Look at how the lighting implies many different things happening in the house as Connie moves through it.
Alright, we need to go back to the hospital.
This has a psychological effect, making us feel that there's a lot going on around these characters that is just out of frame, adding to our fear that anything could happen at any moment. When the film maximizes its disorienting chaos, there are a few different techniques that the Safdies turn to, and sometimes more than one at a time. First, the Safdie brothers will often switch to a Steadicam when the action is most frenetic. The Steadicam adds a ton of tension to scenes, and as it follows the characters' desperate struggles, the camera will randomly shift in and out of focus, reminding us of the unpredictable and uncertain path forward. Second is the way the Safdie brothers use sound. I can't say enough about the phenomenal 1-0-Tricks Point Never soundtrack that's woven throughout this film. Its demanding pace inserts itself right into the film's DNA, complementing the action perfectly. Listen to how it ratchets up the intensity in this scene. The soundtrack reminds us of how these characters are constantly working against the clock. Speaking about his soundtrack, 1-0-Tricks Point Never said, "If time doesn't become apparent and you're just living your life, then you're probably not experiencing any stress. But if you're up against the clock, or you feel the presence of time on some level, then everything changes, and I think everything is one step from falling apart." And I think that's what the film is about. So I have to think, how do I make music that immediately thrusts you into this, where time is just pumping right now? This desperation of everything being one step from falling apart ties together with how the character's stress builds and builds. This stress is the glue that holds the film together, and as voices grow until they're yelling, the Safdies will turn to a third option in which multiple plot points converge at once, raising stress to a fever pitch. Take this scene where Connie is trying to get Nick out on bail. We know how desperate Connie is to get his brother out of jail, and as he tries to negotiate with the bondsman about the funds, things get more tense. Jennifer Jason Leigh's character Corey begins arguing with her mom on the phone, pulling Connie in yet another direction. As Connie tries to think on his toes, we're given tight Steadicam shots with shallow depth of field, driving the scene's stress. The conclusion of this scene shows us the balancing act Connie is forced to deal with, while also teaching us about his ability to think quickly.
It's a bail bonds place. So the thing is this. The thing is, Mom, we get the money back.
I'll call you back, Bobby.
Mom, we get the money
Chaos.
back.
Hold
right?
on a second.
Sorry,
Can you
excuse
take that
me.
outside?
Sir, it's a legitimate loan.
Okay.
You get it back.
We got 10 minutes.
You
Decide.
get it
What do you want to
back.
do?
Look, it's a fucking disaster.
The Safdies don't bang a single drum throughout Good Time, but sprinkle different techniques throughout the film to keep things fresh and engaging. By juggling between techniques, Good Time retains a high level of tension without becoming monotonous or predictable. As viewers, this keeps us in the driver's seat with the characters, and their stressful, disorienting journey becomes our own. In editing these differing elements together so seamlessly, Good Time becomes greater than the sum of its parts, showcasing the Safdie brothers' distinctive filmmaking voice.